Hi everyone, it's Bridget here from Paper Creations with another card today. This one is embossed and watercoloured, and I'm using quite a few different products. I'm actually using the Simon Says stamp June card kit stamps and also the Simon Says stamp July card kit stamps, as well as Stampin' Up! Bloomin' Love and touches of texture. So quite a lot going on here. So let's get started. So what you'll need, now the size of your card base will vary depending on how much you mask off on your sides, but I'll get into that in a minute. So for the purposes of this card, and I may even have to trim mine down a little bit, but for the purposes of that card, our base is 8 1/4 by 5 1/2. You'll also need a piece of watercolour paper, and this is the Stampin' Up! Watercolour paper. It's quite heavy, and you can see that I've actually drawn some lines. Now this one measures, if I can find, this one actually measures, let me tell you, it measures 4 1/2 by almost 5 3/4, but you won't use that whole piece. You'll stamp and then you'll mask off where I've actually put the pencil lines, and this bit in the middle here becomes the top of your card. What I'm also using is the Stampin' Up! Copper embossing powder, a Versamark embossing ink. I'm using these, which are really beautiful watercolors. They're from Prima and they're watercolor confections, and they're just gorgeous. So they come like this, and this one is the Tropicals collection and this one is the Classics collection. So I'll be using both of those. What else am I using? I'm using my embossing buddy, my fast fuse, and possibly my Pitt artist's pens to go over the sentiment, because it's stamping on watercolor, it sometimes doesn't come out very well. I think that might be all. So let's get started. Okay. So the first part that we're doing is the embossing, and I've mounted all the stamps that I'm going to be using, except for a couple of little ones that I'll swap over. So we'll take the embossing buddy and we'll just give it a really good rub so that the embossing ink, embossing powder, sorry, stays pretty much where I want it to be. Then you're going to start stamping. Now I've started with this largish stamp that's come out of the July card kit, the Simon Says Stamp July card kit, and that's going to be pretty much the focal point. So I'm going to stamp that into this corner. And what I'll do is I'll do one and then put the powder on, because it'll become too hard to see if I don't want to lose where I've sort of put, stamped it. And it doesn't matter how you do this. You can pretty much do it any way you like. I like some stamped off the edge, so I'll do that up here a little bit. And again, take your powder and just spread it on. And this is beautiful powder, actually. It just goes on there really nicely. And just keep stamping around. I'm going to use the leaves now, and they can go up here. And while I've got that, I'll do another one just up here. And again, take your powder, comes out beautifully. Okay, so then I've got this big one here, which is out of the touches of texture, and I'm going to run that one across the bottom here. Move that up a bit so you can see just here. Take your powder, and you'll notice I'm not heat embossing this straight away. I'm just putting all the design on there, and then I'll do the actual heating of it. So you've got some gaps which would be good to fill. So I'm just going to swap over some stamps, and I've got this little one out of touches of texture. That can just stay on there. And I'm going to stamp that one in there. Take your powder, spread it on. Take some little ones here and fill in your gaps if it wants to stay on there. So I'll put one up here, one there, another one just in here, and another one down here. Okay, I'm actually pretty happy with the way that looks. I might just put a little bit more powder on that end, and that's that done. So now I'm going to take my heat tool and I'm going to heat that up. Okay, so that's all nicely embossed. You can see, hopefully see a little bit of shine on there. Now I'm going to take my masking tape. If you've got blue painter's tape, that's probably a better one to use, but I've only got masking tape. So I'm going to take some of the sticky off it by just running it across my mat here. And you're going to tape it down. And this will help to hold it nice and flat, because watercolour tends to buckle the card a little bit if you don't. And again, just, you know, take some of the sticky off it. You can do it on your arm if you like. Works fine just that way as well. And just mask that off. There we go. And the other side. And then piece across the top. Just across there. Okay, there you go. So that's nice and secure. Just make sure that you've left yourself room for your sentiment as well before you actually go ahead and do all of that. And that actually looks pretty good. I should be able to fit that in there. Okay, so now you're going to take a watercolour brush, and what I did was I just took some water, quite a lot of water on the brush, and I actually went around the edges of the work after cleaning your brush. So just spread the water around all your leaves. You want quite a bit of water because this paper takes quite a lot of water. And I'm just spreading water into all the little pieces here, as much as you can anyway. Okay, then you want to take some blue, and I'm just going to take a light blue, and I'm just going to drop water in there, just like that. See how that flows? And just keep dropping it in to all the little places. And I'm not overly worried if I get it, you know, sort of on the actual flowers. Then just take a piece of paper towel and just dab that. And you can keep coming back in with more paint if you want to, just to give that a bit of a hint of blue in the background. There you go. That's fine, just like that. Okay, so clean off your brush, and now we start with the colouring. So I'm going to use this colour here, which is like a very, very deep pink, and that's going to cover the whole of that flower, and actually put some on the other because you want to get a wash of colour on that, and I've put a little bit too much on there. And it shouldn't actually, it should be pretty easy to do because it shouldn't go across the embossing by much at all. If you do happen to go outside, just use your paper towel to quickly dab that up and it should be fine. And if you do find that you've got too much paint on here, you can always thin it out with a little bit of water. So I just pretty much put some on here, and that's the bit that I work off here, and I keep adding water to it if it's too dark. And I tend to dry between the layers as well. Okay, so just take your heat gun and just give that a little bit of a now you can come back in with slightly more colour. So add a little bit more colour to the wash that you've got happening here and go back in and just go over the areas that you've just done. Sometimes you might need to do it 3 times just to get the right shade that you want. It dries a lot lighter than what it actually looks like when it's wet. Again with the big flower, and this process is really quick. I just do this really, really quickly. I don't spend much time shading. Actually, I want to just get colour onto the actual page. And just keep going round and round. And the embossed bit actually resists the colour, so that's how you get that beautiful outline on it. Okay, so that's that one pretty much finished. Alright, now we want to move on to the orange. So just make sure your brush is really clean and pick up some of the orange. Same process. Just add water to it so it's not quite so dark, although this one will be dark because it's only going in a very small area. I'm not sure what Oh, this is a number 6 brush, so if you you might want a smaller one. Actually, I probably could use a smaller one here, but I'm not too worried if I get it, you know, outside. Okay, I want a yellow. I'll just wipe that up and just get the yellowy one for my bigger flower there. And again, it pretty much stays where the embossing is. It doesn't really go anywhere else unless you put too much on there, which I've done a little bit just on the corner there. Okay, now I'm going to do the purple, which is out of this one. This is a beautiful purple. It's handy sometimes to have 2 different pots of water, one to clean your brush and one to pick up clean water. I haven't done that on here. Probably should have though. And you're just dropping colour in there. Okay. I might do the green and take it from there. I'll use a light green, I think, to start with. I didn't do that the first time round, but I will this time. And just go over the leaves. And then when you've done all of these, you can take your heat gun and just dry that area off and come back in with more colour. And I'll take the little bit that's left on the brush and here and just do these little bits here. Okay, alright, so then clean that off, take your heat gun and just give that a bit of a heat. Okay, make sure your brush is clean. I'm going to pick up a darker green now, and I think I'll use this one and come back into these ones here. Just like that. It just adds a bit of depth and a bit of texture. And go over these ones as well. Okay, I want some yellow for the centres, the flower centres. Just make sure your water's clean, your brush is clean. A little bit of yellow just for the centres of the flower. Okay, so now I dry that off. Okay, it's not completely dry, but dry enough. Then take your sentiment stamp and your ink I'm using the Stampin' Up! Basic Black, and stamp up the sentiment. Just make sure you get lots of ink on there. And just put it there. Press down on it. Okay, I'll have to go over that with my black marker very shortly. But first I'll just give that another go with the heat gun. Okay. Let's take the black marker and just go over some of that darkness there to make it really black. And I'm using the medium one. You could probably use the bold one if your hand was a bit steadier than mine sometimes is. And it's quite easy to do this. It's not a difficult thing. It doesn't take very long. Okay, nearly done. And I'm only doing the thicker downward strokes to make those stand out, just for the purposes of the video. I mean, if I was, doing this card just on my own without recording it, I would probably spend the time just to go over the whole of the letters to make them, really stand out, which is what I did with this one. I actually went over all of the letters, as you can see. Last one. There. Okay. Now I'll just give that a quick dry. The last thing that I did was to sort of tie it all together. I took some of the colours that I've been working with and put them on the end of a stamping block and added lots and lots of water and just flick them over the work and over your surface and everything else. And I dry between layers just because I don't want the colours blending. And you can do all the colours that you used or just some of them. It's really up to you. I tend to just use some of them. And again, just dry off. And I think that might do, actually. Okay. All right, so let's take this off and see what we've ended up with. Okay, so what you need to do now is you'll get your trimmer and you'll actually trim that around the edges where you've drawn your pencil lines. and you're left with a piece that looks like this, which should fit. When I made this card, I left the base till last. I actually didn't cut the base out. I actually measured my painted piece and made the base according to, you know, sort of what I would need. So you can then get it to fit with this gorgeous little border just around the edges. Because I was doing a video, I pre-cut. Now the border is still very nice. It's a little bit bigger than what I would like, but you can still use it. If you're not happy with it, you can actually put it back in and just measure it up like this. Take a pencil and just mark where you would like to actually trim it. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to put that back in my trimmer, and I'm going to cut that all the way to the top. There we go. And that should fit perfectly now, hopefully. Yep, perfect. If there's a little bit that you can see, like a little bit of a pencil mark, just use an eraser and just rub that out. I use fast fuse because I've put a lot of water on this card. Even though it's quite dry, I still like to make sure that it's actually going to stay stuck down. And then just a piece down there, and just line that up. And there you have it, a watercolor card. And you can see, like, you don't have to do a lot of effort to get a really nice personal card. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please click the thumbs up and leave me a comment. I'm happy to have comments and questions. If you'd like to know anything, just let me know and I'll do my best to answer. Thank you for watching.